And we're going. I'll let you know. Hi, welcome to Space Couch. Give me just 1 second here. I got to do a little space adjustment or else we'll careen right into the sun. We don't want to start Vampire Freaks off that way. How you guys doing? Welcome to Space Couch. Oh, all right. How we doing out there? Is it? Okay. Hold on a sec, though. We can't see you yet. Hi! You guys ready to start Vampire Freaks Festival Day 2? I'm pretty ready. FREEZE ETCH, I'll let you know when you're on screen, but you're not on screen yet. Because first, we got to get to... Do we have no sound? Oh, no. You can hear me now? Okay. All right. We good? We good on sound? Okay. Okay. We're good here. We're good. So let's get into some advertising. We just got to do a little life support systems correction. Advertiser this week is Tiger Squawk Records. I don't know how we got them. The new beta virus is out. Check out that stuff. It's amazing. The new Industrial Galaxy in Flames songs about Warhammer 40K. Sugar Plum Suicide new single Battle Ready. That's amazing. Otterbat Super Chat podcast with the mighty Ryan. Industrial Nerds podcast with Clubovator. Also check out Sicily from Science Fiction in pre-order now. And the new Easterly, Agoraphobic Sweetheart, it's so creepy. It'll fuck you up. Gaslit Invertebrate is kickstarting now. And of course, shout out to Dark Side of the Con online. So, ladies and gentlemen, super happy to be here on Dark Side of the Festival. I did it again. I forgot to say the catchphrases too. Call the spaceships to Davenport, prepare for Devanarchy, and interface with the couch in space here on Space Couch. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, I'm very excited to talk to kind of a stalwart comeback from 12 years in the making. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is. FREEZE ETCH, we can see you now. What's up?
How's it going? Happy to be here.
It's going really well, man. Let me grab my coffee, my space coffee it's specially formulated to stay delicious.
I probably got more than you. I've got a nice half a pot going right here in
my
bucket.
Awesome. Well, you need a lot of coffee here in space because the slightest deviation in reaction time and you're fucking dead.
Exactly.
So, there is in the world now a new FREEZE ETCH album. Holy crap! All Context Vanishes. Let's get into that right away because I'm excited about it. Tell us about this album, man. Is there conceptually high above, pardon the pun, but bird's eye view? Is there any unifying theme or something to this album?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm super thrilled that this album has seen the light of day because I've been working on it for. Well, technically, I've been recording tracks for it between 2017 to 2019. But before that, there was many years of like a lack of activity, and
Sure.
it was not intended necessarily. It was just, life happens, and it was
Absolutely.
kind of a struggle to get to a point where I was being creative again. But around 2016, started kind of getting back into the groove of recording and whatnot, and finally finished the album on December 31st, 2019.
Yeah.
So literally right at the end of the decade there, and then we announced it on February 1st, which is my birthday, and also the 12th anniversary of my last proper full-length album called Vessels, which was out
Visual
on.
aids.
Yes, this is the only sealed copy that still exists, but well, to my knowledge anyway. But yeah, that was out on Force of Nature Productions in 2008, and this album, All Context Vanishes, is out on Void Star Productions, based out of your neck of the woods.
Oh yeah,
over on the East Coast there, and yeah, I couldn't be happier. It's a mix of ambient, industrial, techno. There's even some textures of post-punk and that kind of thing in there. It's kind of all over the map, but I'm really proud of it.
very cool. So, I mean, this may be a theme of the show today, but like, did you always have kind of freeze etch on that back burner of like, I'm gonna get to this, or had you put it away totally in the drawers of your mind? I mean, 12 years is a pretty raunchy comeback.
Yeah, it was, well, back in 2008. Well, the about like 6 years leading up to that, I was living in Bloomington, Indiana, which is a college town, and that's where I was going to college. And I had a lot of stuff going on there. I was doing a lot of DJing, performing, and stuff like that. And then everybody moved away, and it was just, suddenly everything became a lot more expensive just to live, And I ended up coming back to South Bend for a while, and it kind of derailed my plans, so to speak, my plans that didn't quite exist. And there's a couple of years where I just kind of did nothing, and then I randomly moved to Seattle for a year and completely fell on my ass immediately.
Really?
And then I came back, and that's when I realized, I really need to get back to this stuff, because it's something that had been missing from my life, and I realized it helped me to kind of cope with existing in a way,
I hear that, dude. Like, if I'm having a shitty day, like I crack open Cubase, and it's like an instant Advil to my emotional state.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, it's a struggle too, because I'm kind of a sluggish producer in a way. It'll take me, I'll get the bulk of a track done in like 70. I'll get like 70% of a track done in like 1 or 2 days, and then the rest of it will just take like a month, and then I'll just take another month off, and then maybe work on another track. And so in a way, it's kind of like I get really frustrated by the process of music making, but also it is very cathartic to have a finished product and to put it out there.
It is nice to like have that out into the world. I'm going to give you 1 second. We're going to cut to music in a second. I just want to give a shout out to everybody in chat rooms. So I have a couple open. Sorry if I don't see you. What's up to Science Fiction on Tiger Squawk Records? Cindy, Dan the Vein Collector, NTTX on Twitch. I just burped into the mic. That's okay.
I'll probably be doing that.
That's all right. DJ, Priest, Rybiz, if I'm saying your name right, Copper Girl, Nettie Gabrielle. Oh, riveting music, Living Dead Girl 67, and Crane Cubine. All right, so we're gonna try. This is new. This might go south. We're gonna try it. This is the first ever live commentary. Oh, the Boundless is here on music. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, go, and then you hit the video on your end. Ready? So
got it.
So let me just do that. And 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so we got all context vanishes. This sounds really great, man. This is, okay, now we're, okay, this is conscious image. Woo! Aw, shit. Woo! That sounds great. Wow! Ha! Well done. That sounds pretty great, man. Woo!
all that. So
And we're back. That was great. So, Kestrel Yeg, yes, voidstarproductions.bandcamp.com. What's up to Swabby? Hey, man. Eric Carl is in the Twitch chat room. That looked great. Good job on the artwork, man. Friend of the show, Kevin Lux, is in Facebook. What's going on?
yeah.
So let's get into Voidstar, because in a crazy small world thing, uh, deftly, David is the Boston Gothsicle. Like I play with him live a lot, and he kind of got me back into like gear and stuff. He lives 8 minutes away, and then he signs Freeze Etch to his label, and it's like these Midwest is coming back to me. Like
You can't escape.
because I spent a great deal of time in Chicago. And I'm in Boston now, and I'm in Dorchester, and then I'm like I didn't really know anybody. I kind of knew definitely through like Prurient, and then we started hanging out, and it's just the obvious choice. So how did you get in touch with Voidstar Productions?
Well, definitely has kind of been in the background for a long time. It's hard to trace exactly where it began, but at least with my memory. But going back as far as around 2002, 2001 ish, I was on these Yahoo groups for. There's one called Addiction, and then there was another one called. It was a How Job fan.
Yeah.
Yahoo group, but Daniel Meyer was a part of that.
Oh my Yahoo! Oh, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, there was another one. There were people that were getting together to do a tribute to Daniel or to How Job. Some of the artists that were involved in that was like Assemblage 23,
nice,
Fleshfield,
wow.
Pulse Legion, Cut Rate Box.
Legion.
And I was on this Yahoo group, and I was, this is in the formative stages of Freeze Etch. But the compilation never came out. But there was a few tracks that still kind of came out. There was Assemblage 23's cover of Dream Aid that made it to a How Job to the Penetration single, and I had done a remix of a Transfer that came out on my own release, Somnambulist, which is the first Freeze Etch release. But anyway, so when Somnambulist came out, that was just a CDR limited pressing of like 50 copies.
That's what you did.
Mostly gave it to people locally, but I also commented on the Yahoo groups, and I believe definitely got one around that time.
Nice.
And I wasn't really talking to him so much at that time, but there were some years that went by, it was about that time when Dave Dondo Moore from the project Detritus got in touch with me, and I believe definitely is the one who kind of clued him in about me, and he reached out to Dave and was saying, hey, you should maybe put this guy on your compilation. At that time he had a label called Flesh Made Word Records, and there was a compilation called Words Becoming. There was volume 1 and volume 2, and this had early appearances from guys like Isoloscope, C Data Kill, Antigen Shift, Scrap EDX, Pneumatic Detach, all those guys. And so I ended up with a track on one of those compilations. And then Dave, who his project Detritus, he actually released some stuff for the Ad Nauseam label, if you remember Ad Nauseam.
This is what a forgotten time. Okay, this is great.
But Dave, he said he wanted to release some Freeze Etch, So I had put together an EP called Helios, which that was the first release that I felt like really proud of, I guess, or like at least in retrospect, I look back to that one and I say, okay, this one still kind of holds up,
Right.
The Somnambulist, I'm kind of, I don't know if I want to put that out there.
Feel that too. Not for that, but I have my own.
It was a necessary step, But,
I hear that.
Regardless, Helios eventually got remastered, and it was around the time of Helios when that first came out. This was in the days of Soulseek.
Soulseek.
I was friends with Daniel Meyer on Soulseek
Very cool.
And I messaged him, and I was browsing his files, and he had like all his like obscure releases that I would never have like any hope of finding, like Hexer and like dots and dashes and stuff like that. And I was just like, "Hey Daniel, do you mind if I?" He's like, "Sure, go ahead."
That's awesome.
And but anyway, just talking to him, I had this demo for that. That was going to be for the Vessels album that I was getting ready to send out to people, and I just asked him if I could send him a copy, and he's like, whatever. And I sent it to him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is really good. Do you mind if I remix a track on it?"
Nice.
And I was like, "What?" And there was a track called "Asunder" on there. I was like, I mean, yeah, by all means. And like within like a day or two, he just like sent me this half-finished thing. He was like, "It's not done yet." And so I'm sitting on this remix for like years. That's just
really?
like half done, and I'm like, what do I do with this? And eventually when we were looking at remastering the Helios release for a digital reissue with Force of Nature Productions, the guy who was running the label at that time was Clint Sand from Cut Rate Box.
Yeah, I know Clint.
Yep, and he knew Daniel, and I was like, I feel bad reaching out to. I mean, he was like, do you have any extra stuff you want to release on this reissued, like stuff laying around? And I was like, well, I got this Daniel Meyer remix, it's half finished. And he was like, well, I'll reach out to Daniel and see what we can do. And he finished it, and it ended up on Helios too. So
that's amazing. Hold on just 1 second. I'm sorry. I want to cut over to the chat room. KMFDM DMFK. Yes. Thank you for ordering that shoulder shave cream. That will go out Monday. Yes, you can get Gothsicles brand shoulder shave cream at thegothsicles.bandcamp.com. No sleeves for life. You could also get cat shit scoopers when we have them back in stock. So you have a half done How Job remix for how long?
It was maybe like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years or something. Just
that's amazing.
Around. But and when he finally finished it, it ended up being totally different. But anyway, back to the Void Star thing. So when I was shopping around this the demo for Vessels, that was when I had placed an order for something on the Void Star store. I think it was a Pneumatic Detach album.
Nice.
And I messaged Deathly and was like checking in on it because it had been like there was like a delay or something. And I also mentioned that I had this demo, or he asked if I had anything, any releases coming out, and I said, well, I'm trying to get this demo out, and he said, oh well, I think I might know some people in Force of Nature Productions, which at first was headed by Peter Lee from was it Bereft? And then he ran into some life trouble and whatnot, and then he handed all that off to Clint. I think Jared Falcon was involved with that too. But anyway, so yeah, definitely kind of hooked me up with these Force of Nature guys. And then Vessels came out, and I ended up opening for Terrafact and Tanacom in 2006 here in Bloomington, Indiana. And at the time, I don't think I connected the dots that like Deathly was involved with Terrafact because he didn't actually play in that show.
Okay.
But yeah, that was just kind of a weird like crossing of paths. But anyway, fast forward many years, Deathly and I we'd kind of vaguely kept in touch online, but like, we were really like as aggressively in touch, I guess, as we have been recently. But 2016, our mutual friend Drew, he asked me if I wanted to go to Cold Waves, or if I was going to Cold Waves, and this is Cold Waves 5. And I said I didn't have the money to get a ticket, and he just like straight up bought me a ticket.
That's amazing.
Just an awesome guy. He's a big fan of Freeze Etch, and he was just like, man, I just want to see you there.
That's amazing.
So he bought me some tickets, and so I ended up going, and I was hanging out with Drew, and he was like, oh, hey, I want to introduce you to someone. And it was Deathly. And that was the first time I had ever met Deathly in person. And Deathly's like, hey, I want to do a release for you. And, kind of noted that. And then shortly after, our mutual friend Drew was murdered. Okay. It's kind of a messed up story.
Wow.
I hesitate to get into the details, but it was like
but
an estranged
Wow.
like his girlfriend's like ex-husband or something like that, like bludgeoned him to death or something. It's awful. And so they wanted to do some kind of um, memorial event for him, which ended up being this Plex event in Indianapolis
Okay.
with at the time people like End User,
Mm-hmm.
Bong Ra, and DJ Shipmat. They were on the Monsters of Mashup tour, and he was a big fan of these guys, so they kind of uh, uh, met up with us, and we got this show together, and that was kind of what kicked my ass into like producing again. This is early 2017.
Okay.
And then um, ended up getting a release out for Deathly of some like stray tracks that I had done over the years called Not Today, which this is just stuff that just needed to come out before I could focus on new stuff,
Okay.
So
Totally.
yeah. But anyway, so I have Deathly to thank for getting a bug out my ass.
Very
about this,
cool.
so.
I believe definitely played the shopping cart in Terror Fact. But
That sounds about right.
Yeah, for every Gossicle show, like I show up with like 2 pieces of gear, and he brings in like a mangled spring and like power tools. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be a show.
He had an oil drum on stage, I believe, at the Plex show, and then there was the Void Star Productions Percussive Resistance tour in 2018, which is the first tour I've been a part of. I was only on like 3 shows in that tour, but yeah, that was a blast. And they had all kinds of power tools and sheet metal, scrap metal, like that kind of stuff on stage. It was pretty awesome.
Very cool. Well, speaking of the process, I noticed you have a ton of not a ton, but some very cool looking synths in the background there. How does the process work for you physically? Like, do you lay down like a bass line first thing in the morning, or just like throw something down on a lunch break, or what?
I mean, I try. There's no real process. It's kind of. I try not to be too gear centric. I guess just because when I was a kid, I grew up playing piano. I took piano lessons for about 10 years, and that kind of ingrained the music theory stuff in my brain. Now, if I sat down in front of a piano and tried to bang out, Beethoven or something like that, like I probably couldn't do it. But my wife, on the other hand, probably could. She's amazing. But so I have this sense of like melody, composition, and that sort of stuff, and I tend to focus more on that than the gear. But I also love gear. I mean, totally. I'm not gonna lie. So, but a lot of times, I mean, I'm kind of a sluggish producer. I go through. I tend to go back and forth between like I'll work on a bunch of tracks over the course of a few months, and then I'll get burnt out and I'll just play video games for the next few months. And right now I'm definitely in a video game stage.
Okay.
But I guess I kind of just have to force myself to sit down and work sometimes. But a lot of times it's, I'll start with a melody or something. And sometimes it's literally just firing up a piece of gear and just like, starting just anything, and just making sure I'm hitting the record button.
It helps.
Or sometimes it'll be triggered by I got a new plugin and I'm just messing around, and suddenly something comes up, and before you know it, it's the same impulse I follow when it's time to clean my bedroom or something. It's I don't consciously get around to I'm not like regimented about it, but suddenly I get this bug in me, like I gotta get this clean, and I spend the whole day cleaning, like
totally
it's that kind of thing. So
is there any gear or VST or even like musical move that you're feeling these days?
Well, I guess like, I mean, right now I've kind of gone through several different setups. Early on it was it was mainly Fruity Loops, back when it was actually called Fruity Loops,
Right.
and Cool Edit Pro,
Yeah, I still use
Adobe
it.
Audition, and so I was doing that for a while, and then I had a. Oh, my cats are fighting right now.
Oh no,
It's not pretty.
you can take care of that if you need to. I don't...
Hang on a second. Okay, I think.
All right, we can vamp here on Space Couch if you need to do a cat
But
emergency.
anyway, so the where was I? Oh, with gear, I had a Novation KS4. That was
Nice.
a synth I had for a while. That's what you heard on the Vessels album back in the day. Kind of went through several different setups, and eventually settled on. I've got the Moog Sub 37, the Korg Prologue 8, and I've got a bunch of guitar pedals, a guitar and a bass. Oh my gosh, these cats are. Hang on 1 second, okay?
Sure thing. We'll vamp here on what is up to the chat room. Thanks for sticking around. We do long form interview here on Space Couch. Usually Sundays at 3 p.m. Tune in next week for Virtual Terrorist, Canada's own Virtual Terrorist, and then it will be Unit Code Machine.
Okay, maybe I scared him. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh shit, Dad's coming.
I locked him up, but I can't catch him now.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. We'll see if Space Dog will come out. I think she's sleeping.
But with the gear and stuff, like I said, I got all that stuff. I've got the Ableton Push. I eventually made the switch over to Ableton, and I'm really glad I did that.
You're an Ableton guy. Okay.
As far as
anybody here an Ableton guy? Say what's up in the chat room if you are. Oh, Dre from Noisebox is here. All right, cool.
And then as far as like, I don't know, things I tend to gravitate towards with like musical moves or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a number of different things. Like, I like playing with the feeling of like double time or halftime rhythms.
Oh.
Where like you can hear a rhythm and you can nod your head really slowly, or you can, go like this, or it's like it's you're feeling like different rhythms at the same time, I guess.
No, I totally felt that in the tracks you played. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, and like if you've ever listened to like Suicide, like the kick drums, the repetitive kick drums, that kind of lend to a sense of tension. Unresolved chords, blues notes, like blues intervals. Stuff like that. I don't know. And as far as like other like VSTs and stuff I gravitate towards, one that I really like is what's it called? The Surreal Machines. Oh gosh, what is it called? Hang on a second. Oh, it's the Dub Machines. There's two plugins. There's one called Modnetic that I really like. It's a delay and modulation type plugin.
Cool.
Modnetic. Yeah, Modnetic.
I'll check it out.
I'm a big fan of that. It tends to sneak its way into a lot of stuff that I'm doing. And there's Sound Toys. I'm a big fan of the Sound Toys stuff.
Thumbs up.
Decapitator. Yep.
Totally.
I love Decapitator. FabFilter Pro Q3 is almost on like everything. It's just a Swiss Army knife for EQ.
Cool.
And Supa Trigger, if you've ever heard of that. It's
negative.
It's kind of a glitchy, like, I don't know. It's just something that creates like glitchy kind of rhythmic effects.
All about that, man.
Thing, reversing and looping and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I'm using Arturia stuff, Omnisphere, Isotope. I like all the Isotope stuff.
I like that too. Very cool. I've seen you play in Chicago, and that was, of course, before the coronavirus initiated the apocalypse. But you were awesome. How do you find the live experience, or I guess did you, now that we can't play live in venues anymore? And back before shelter in place, did you have any favorite venues?
Oh, Well, the live thing. So I think earlier on it used to make me more nervous to get on stage and perform in front of people. I mean, when I was like doing like piano recitals as a kid, I would just be a total mess and just I could not focus. But and in a way maybe that prepared me for live performance with Freeze Etch. But the thing I find myself worrying about the most on stage is not so much how I look on stage or if I'm performing well or something like that. It's more is like my USB gonna come unplugged and like just totally derail everything. Like when I played with Terrafact in Bloomington, I'll never forget it. I was this was back when I had an Novation KS4 and I had a big old beige box PC on stage, the huge monitor and whatnot.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, and I remember like the sound, like I wasn't like the volume was like I kept cranking it, and I'm like, man, I can't hear anything. And like, I mean, I could hear some of it, but it just didn't sound right or something. And I realized after the show, as I was tearing down, that an audio cable was sticking out of the back of my synth. So there was only one channel going out through the whole thing. I was so mad because I was so stoked about this Terrafact show, and I just blew it totally. But
oh man, technical difficulties are like my middle name.
Yeah, so that just terrifies me more than anything.
It's always just it's the dumbest thing, always, right? Like
I did have if you tuned in not too long ago to Voidstar did a streaming thing. It was a feature on a few different artists of theirs, and one of them was they streamed a live pre-recorded live show of Freeze Etch show at McCormick's here in South Bend, and at that show I was using an audio interface that was kind of on its last legs. Focusrite Forte that they were no longer supporting drivers for.
Okay.
And yeah, it just like in the middle of the show you can hear like Windows alerts like going on. Getting disconnected and stuff. And yeah, so
oh god.
But yeah, as far as like venues and stuff, oh man.
Can I time hold that venue thought because I have to jump in with this recent like my new number one real quick. What's up to DJ Vegan and Black in Chicago? She says hi, Adam.
I was literally just about to mention her.
All right, and Grasp Logic on Facebook. What is up? What is up to Cookie Monster? So your window alerts thing, dude. I was playing a show in Toronto last year, and I run it mostly off the iPad, and the whole show crashed because a calendar alert came up for my flight home the next day.
No.
It like showed up on the screen and everything. Like, guess everybody knows my flight number.
That is a nightmare for us.
So what's your venue breakdown?
So one of the venues that's been pretty kind to me in Chicago was Underground Lounge, which I have a few different people to thank for that. I think when I was initially looking for a venue in Chicago, I went to my friend Lisa, also known as DJ Qbot, or I think she goes by Quantum now. She lives in Berlin now, but she was a Chicago DJ for a long time, like 15 years or something like that. I used to go with her to all these like techno shows and stuff like
hell
events.
Yeah.
We actually went to Detroit together once and saw, if you're familiar with Perk.
Nope.
He's an industrial techno guy. We got into this Perk Track showcase thing that was kind of along the outskirts of the Movement Festival, and we actually like the Perk, Allie from Perk, ended up buying us drinks because she was like friends with Allie, which was just mind blowing to me now. This is back in like 2009 or something, but anyway, so Lisa, she was friends with my friend Jenna Max in Chicago.
Hey, what's up to Jenna Max?
DJ. She was doing a lot of DJing at Underground Lounge and other places and whatnot. And that's kind of how I got into the show with Architect, and also my friend DJ Vegan and Black, Marcy, who you just mentioned a minute ago. She's
Mhm.
been really helpful in getting shows in Chicago together. I played in at Underground Lounge a number of times, also with Kevin Lux. Um,
Kevin.
played with him a few times. Played with him here in South Bend also. A few other venues that stick out. The Well here in South Bend. Um, they've got a pretty cool setup in like a warehouse kind of space that's connected to their coffee house. And we hired like a professional lighting company to come in and run lights and lasers and stuff. And that was a really awesome show that had Paralyze was on that bill.
Oh, Milwaukee.
Yes. Yep. And Kevin Lux and my friend Sap. He's another guy I've been kind of running around with a lot. My friend Joe, he has a project called Sap, which is a very synth pop, very filthy, hip grindy type stuff. Like this is a guy who grabs his crotch on stage and like,
All right.
like
Sounds great to me.
He's a menace to society. But anyway, his stuff is really great.
Cool, man.
Definitely check him out. But I think he's working on his first album right now. But anyway, we one of my favorite venues I played at with the Void Star Productions Percussive Resistance tour was in Cincinnati. That was the Mockbee, which is basically it's like a tunnel that's or it's two tunnels that are like going into the side of a hill, and
What?
they're like they go really deep, and it's I don't know how to describe it. It's just like this stone tunnel, I guess, and it was just a really
Very
cool
cool.
spot. And I wish more people would have actually turned out for that
Hello.
one, but
Kevin
yeah,
and Lux. Kevin on Facebook says great times. So at
yes.
least he had a good time. That's
So,
I want to play that. We just did Cincinnati not too long ago at oh gosh, what's the Dark Electro or something like that. But Stephen Eckstein, big up to him, 29 Red. But I want to see that tunnel venue. How are you
yeah.
holding up in this wacky quarantine world we're living in?
Oh, well, it has been very interesting because I just started a new job
Hmm.
just before all this stuff got started, or in the middle of as it was getting started. It was in February. Um, I started working as a service desk coordinator at an IT company, a managed services
Hmm.
provider, which services hospitals
Wow.
and yeah, and local government and stuff like that. So, and mind you, I didn't have any background in IT. I
Oh,
mean, I've
really?
worked in a lot of customer service positions. I worked at at two different colleges, like in student housing. I worked in I worked at Microsoft doing some game testing at one
Oh, cool.
point when I was working in Seattle. I was working for doing some Xbox Kinect testing, so you can imagine what testing a motion sensing device is like. You're getting paid to jump around in front of a TV for 10
Right.
hours a day,
Good stuff.
and which is not as fun as it sounds.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, so I didn't have any like IT experience, but
Okay.
I was a grant writer just prior to doing this, a grant writer for a disabled care facility. So convincing them to hire me was kind of like me going, hey, I have all this scattershot technology experience, so
Hmm.
just trust me on this one, right? I
Okay.
even used my electronic music
Yeah,
background
I put it on
to say like
resumes.
I understand signal flow and things like that.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But anyway, this was in February when I started there, and I had to wait almost a month before my actual job technically started because they were going through this period where they were about to transition over to a new workflow, and I couldn't really start until that started. So there was a lot of just sitting around, like just anticipating, just like dreading how it was going to turn out. And then I had 2 weeks where I was actually doing my job
Yeah.
before we went remote
Okay.
because of COVID-19. So,
Right.
and now I'm working full-time remote, which, I actually, this has been like, I am so thankful that I got this job because, I mean, it's not the most amazing job in the world, but it's it pays the bills,
Mm.
and it actually feels like it has meaning because I'm servicing. I mean, we are the critical infrastructure that supports the critical infrastructure.
Yeah, it sounds like you'd be redlining right now. Are you just like, is
Yeah,
the
we've
phone
just
ringing
had
off the hook?
tons and tons of people calling in to get their VPNs set up, and tons of other people going remote. All these other companies, they're going remote, and it's it has just been totally bananas. But anyway, but I feel lucky to have to be able to do that. And also my stepdaughter Eleanor, she's been out of school. She's in 5th grade, and she's had to stay home from school and do e-learning. So me
Wow.
being working remote means I'm having to juggle that with helping her with her e-learning and all that stuff. And then my wife, she works at a bank, and banks aren't shutting down during all this, so she's having to take a risk and be out there handling people's dirty money and stuff like that. So, and then we also have my mother-in-law who lives here with us. She has stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and that's been kind of a thing for the past basically since October or so. That's kind of
It's a lot of irons in the fire, man.
It's been a lot, and throughout all that, I've managed to get my album together and all that, and it has been a crazy time. I mean, the album, doing all that stuff, is the kind of thing that has kept me sane, and
wow. Available now at voidstarproductions.bandcamp.com. That is wow, man. That is a lot of plate spinning.
Sure is.
So even more impressive that you were able to release an album of the caliber that you did. So let's bounce around a bit. Like, let's design the Freeze Etch video game. You'd mentioned video games earlier, so like let's start with like, okay, we're gonna take the gestalt, as we like to say on this show, of Freeze Etch, and we're gonna and whatever the word is, transmorph this into a video game. So like, what style of a video game do you think Freeze Etch would be?
Well, I've got 2 ideas actually.
All right.
Kind of going through my head.
Dope.
One idea for a game would be something that's kind of a Metroidvania,
nice
Contra type of game. Maybe a little bit of Space Quest 3 or Zelda 2, Adventures of Link
in
there or something.
Downward
kind
thrust,
of that RPG kind of element,
Totally.
I would say this would be, the setting doesn't matter, but like some of the levels might be like an alien cave or something.
Okay, there you go.
Something like that, an acid factory.
Right.
You might have a jetpack and be able to double jump or bounce off of walls, that kind of thing.
Like, why though? Because like the Freeze Etch, like, you could go halftime, right? Like you get this time slowdown effect, right? Does that make sense? Okay, all right.
And also with a lot of my music, so a lot of like what has inspired me getting into music in the first place is when I was a kid. Well, there was kind of 2 different things. First of all, I was born with partial hearing loss on my left ear.
Were you really?
Yeah, and so I had these experiences of like taking an X-ray of my skull into show and tell when I was in preschool. And between that and also playing a lot of video games like Atari, NES, Genesis, the sounds of those games were really, I was just obsessed with the sounds, going into like the sound test modes.
Absolutely.
Playing the sound effects and just trying to wrap my brain around it. And then eventually I had discovered 9 Inch Nails, which was a personal favorite, when I was like 11 or 12. I mean, who?
Yeah.
And then after that, it was Autechre.
Yeah.
Autechre was huge for me.
Oh,
because they really hit on that, like that sound, almost like sonic poetry kind of thing, like using those sounds from almost from video games. I mean, they're not directly referencing video games, but like some of those textures I kind of heard, and that's why I kind of latched onto them. but you know, some of those video games, like the auras that are in them, like the visual auras, like the darker, like Metroid or Contra,
Mm.
some of those just neon colors against like black
Mm.
background, you know, that kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
that kind of like resonates with me for some reason. So that's like one idea for a game.
Okay.
The other one uh, would be something like a first-person stealth cyberpunk mystery type thing. Uh, I'm a huge fan of the Deus Ex series. Like
Okay.
back to the original Deus Ex. That was a huge revelation for me. I was just everything about the game, from like the story, the multi-layer story, and at the time it was a really innovative uh, game with like branching plot lines and that kind of thing, and but also the soundtrack again was by Alexander Brandon, was just had an amazing soundtrack. And then there was a game called Iron Helix.
Yeah.
Yes.
How have we not talked video games before? This is amazing.
Iron Helix. Oh man, the soundtrack to that, or at least I think there was only like one song in it, or two songs or something, and then there was sound effects. But that was done by Exorcist. I later learned, which added him on Facebook not too long ago.
Oh, no shit.
Him up, and I was like, dude, you have no idea, you were a part of my childhood. But anyway, Iron Helix is like this game for people who don't know. It's you play a drone robot that has been sent onto a ship where everyone has mysteriously died, and you are kind of exploring this ship and taking DNA samples off the walls and stuff like that. And you're being stalked by another drone this whole time. And I just thought this is such an awesome concept, and would be so great if it were remade in like a modern way. So like I imagine a FREEZE ETCH game being kind of somewhere between Deus Ex and Iron Helix.
Can one of the guns in the FREEZE ETCH game be a blunderbuss?
Totally. I didn't even think of that.
All right.
Yes,
awesome. And we got to have some kind of freeze ray. I mean, I know that's a bit base, but
I was thinking, well, yeah, you could have that. I could see that for sure. I was thinking more like a forensics kit, and the plot that I had kind of thought of would be
look
like
at you got a plot and everything. Okay.
You have like 3 different worlds, and one of them is Earth, and then there are 2 alien worlds, and one of the alien worlds is kind of technologically equivalent to like 1800s here on Earth.
Okay.
But it's aliens, right?
So you have like
this planet has been attacked by a race on the 3rd planet, which is a really advanced civilization. Earth is around like 2200, and then this advanced civilization is, I don't know, year 3000, like that, that kind of thing. And the idea is you go to the 2nd planet and you're investigating what happened there, and the whole time you're being stalked by the aliens from the 3rd planet.
Wow.
And, that was an idea that I had.
That is amazing. So like that's
and you
amazing.
Have like heightened sensory capacity, like olfactory enhancements, like you can detect the composition of the air by the smell or something.
Okay.
And you have visual magnification, where you can analyze like DNA and that kind of thing, or microbes just with your eyes.
Does that in any way represent like past, present, future of FREEZE ETCH, or does musically it embody sort of an alien in a fish out of water situation?
Well, FREEZE ETCH really, I tend to approach a lot of things with that theme of like alienation, I guess, and kind of a desolation. You know, I work a lot with like reverb and like spatial effects and that kind of thing. And I was also incidentally a huge Alien fan of the series.
Hell yeah.
And so that was a huge influence on me. So
very cool. Yeah. Wow, that is Cookie Monster says this is very well thought out. Raya Bees says scary stuff. Nick,
I will say this. The whole reason I did the Microsoft thing when I was working for Xbox doing the Kinect testing, the whole reason I did that was not because I had any interest in or any illusions about what it would be like to be a game tester. It was because I had the ambition of possibly, getting my foot in the door and eventually working my way into a position where you can be a sound designer for video games or doing soundtracks for games and that kind of thing. But kind of fell on my ass there in Seattle because of external factors, which I will not get into. But it was a very disillusioning experience, and also I learned that it's very, very hard to get that job because
everybody wants that.
You have like 300 or 400 people working on any particular video game project, and one of those guys is the sound guy. And it's like the same guy they go to like every time.
Okay.
So it is very hard to get into that role.
We've had some Big Time Kill, Nuclear Sun, some other video game sound designers on the show, and I didn't know the odds were that bonkers.
It is tough, but it also probably depends, what kind of studio you're working for. I mean, working for Microsoft, that's that's.
I've heard of them. I've heard of Microsoft.
Like I got paid to play Halo once.
That's awesome.
That was when they were developing a port for or an Xbox port for a little game called Minecraft.
Never heard of it.
So
maybe it'll take off someday.
But the primary games that I worked on, there was a Star Wars game, Star Wars Connect. It's
oh,
terrible.
Nice.
It is the worst Star Wars game of all time.
Okay.
And
Star Wars Connect. I think a buddy of mine. Shit, was that? Oh God, so that Chicago company that I'm never mind. High Voltage. But that may be a different Star Wars game. Anyway, sorry about that.
There was another game, Nike Plus Connect Training, which is a fitness game, and literally you're just doing to test this game. I literally had to do push-ups and just twists and just just crazy things to test this. And literally there's a Microsoft server somewhere in Washington State that has thousands of recordings of my skeleton just doing this,
Oh my God! Did you?
Just on loop.
The chat room needs to know. Did you do the Han Solo dancing for Star Wars Connect?
Not, but the person in the cubicle next to me did, and I heard it all the time, and it was terrible. The main part that I worked on was the planet Kashyyyk. There's a level for Kashyyyk that I just
you did the Wookiee dancing
all the time, and it was the worst. Oh, and Rancor Rampage, the Rancor Rampage mode.
Yes.
Yeah, Rancor, and you just destroy cities. That was actually kind of fun.
Okay. Amazing. Okay, so I mean, your new album's great and everything, but your real claim to fame is you were in the cubicle next to the guy that did the Han Solo dance on Star Wars Connect.
Here's the worst part or the best part, depending on how you look at it, is I'm not even listed in the credits for that game.
Okay.
Because I had just started, and they don't put your name in the credits as a tester unless you've been there for 3 months or something. And at the time, I hadn't met that that threshold, so my name is not even on it.
That's
so
amazing.
That kind of pissed me off a little bit. But at the same time, I'm like, do I want people to know?
Yeah. You're the Alan Smithy of dancing Star Wars games.
and I'm not exactly in shape. So, and that's the thing is they didn't want people who were necessarily in shape.
Oh, okay.
Because those aren't the kinds of people who are going to be playing the game.
Word.
So
we have 2 minutes left. Please tell me what's next for FREEZE ETCH.
Oh, well, right now everything is pretty much on pause. I had to cancel a gig with Hexadiode.
Love Hexadiode.
Because of all this, and I almost had a gig with Fluxion AD. That was it would have been the second time I played with them. But so maybe setting up those gigs again, and also probably going to be working on a new album at some point. And also my wife, she is incredibly talented. She plays piano, whereas I was someone who had to use sheet music to read off of. She's somebody who just sits down and just plays just anything, just easily. And she sings, and she's just an incredibly talented person, but she hides her talents from the world. So I'm trying to coax that out of her, and I would love to do some kind of collaborative thing with her at some point.
Very cool.
Right now, our space is just very bad for collaboration, but we're hoping to get into a house soon, and then we'll have more space to work with.
Oh.
And, yeah.
Studios and stuff.
Yeah.
Two things. Dre says it's so bad the Rancor is the best part, so thanks to you for that. And we get Freeze Etch with a cool shirt at voidstarproductions.bandcamp.com. Is that
Yes, that is the first Freeze Etch T-shirt that has ever existed. So
awesome? We're gonna cut to outro credits now, but if you got any burning last thoughts, you can get them in.
Go to the Voidstar Productions page, and like I said, it's also on all the streaming sites, and you can. There's also a Freeze Etch Bandcamp, freezetch.bandcamp.
Freeze Etch Bandcamp.
Other stuff on it, including that Daniel Meyer remix.
Yes! Oh, the 4-year in the making Daniel Meyer remix. Thank you so much, Dark Side of the Con Online.
Yes, thank you to Dark Side of the Con and to you for having me. This is a total surprise that this ended up being part of this.
Jet, cut us out anytime, or we'll just talk to a black screen. But no, we're done. Goodbye.
Bye.